Jake Carter stepped through the heavy glass doors of the most expensive restaurant on planet Varellan. The sign above it read, "The Final Taste." He wasn't a rich man, just a traveler with some lucky gambling winnings in his pocket. Tonight, he wanted to taste something rare, something unforgettable. The host, a tall alien with purple skin and 4 eyes, greeted him with a cold smile. "Human," the alien said, bowing slightly. "We have a special tonight, only one dish." "It is." "Not on the menu," Jake raised an eyebrow. "Not on the menu, huh? Is it that rare?" The alien grinned. "Very rare. The chef calls it the living course." Jake didn't understand what that meant, but he chuckled. "All right then. I'll take your best rare steak. Surprise me." The alien's eyes glimmered. "Very well. One living course. Follow me." Jake followed him through a hallway lined with golden walls and strange glowing art. The dining room was private. Dim lights, a single table, one chair. The air smelled like burning spices and sweet wine. "Wait here," the host said and disappeared behind a curtain. Jake sat down, stretching his arms. He looked around. No one else in the room. He thought maybe they were going to cook the steak right in front of him. Maybe the chef would show off some wild alien style, but he was wrong. Suddenly, the lights dimmed further. A soft drumbeat began to play from the ceiling. The curtain in front of him pulled back slowly, and that's when Jake froze. 2 large aliens came forward, dragging something. No. Someone into the room. She wasn't a steak. She was a girl. An alien girl. Her skin was a soft silver blue. Her arms were thin. Her legs trembled as she stood, wearing only a loose cloth over her body. Chains were wrapped around her ankles and wrists. Her head was down, her long dark hair covering most of her face. She looked barely alive. Jake's heart skipped a beat. "What the hell is this?" he said, standing up. The host walked back in, smiling calmly. "Your rare steak, sir. Fresh, untouched, completely organic." Jake stepped back. This is a person." No, the host said. "She was bred in the kitchen, raised with care, trained not to speak. She is yours now. However you prefer to enjoy her." Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Is this a joke?" he asked. The host's smile dropped. "You do not like the presentation?" Jake looked at the girl. She wasn't even looking up. Her body shook as if she expected to be hurt. "Get these chains off her," Jake said, his voice cold. The host narrowed his eyes. "That is not standard." Jake stepped between them and the girl. "I don't care what's standard. You think I want to eat someone who's alive, who's terrified?" "She is property," the host said, his voice getting sharp. "You paid for the rarest course. This is it. No refunds." Jake took a deep breath. His hands were shaking now, not from fear, but from anger. He looked at the girl again. She still hadn't spoken. She didn't even flinch when he moved. Jake slowly knelt beside her. "Hey," he said gently. "Can you hear me?" She didn't answer. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small translation chip he always kept for emergencies. He placed it in her hand. "If you can understand me, just blink once." For a moment, there was nothing. Then she blinked. Jake stood up slowly. "Yeah," he said to the host, voice steady. "I think I lost my appetite." "You cannot leave," the host replied. "She belongs to this restaurant. She's not yours to take." "She's not food," Jake said. "Then she will be disposed of." Jake's eyes went wide. "What?" "Once rejected," the host explained coldly. "We cannot serve her again. Regulations." Jake clenched his fists. This wasn't just sick, it was murder. He looked at the girl again. Her eyes met his now. They were big, shiny, empty. She was waiting for him to turn away, like everyone else probably had. Jake made his decision. He stepped forward, placed both hands on the girl's shoulders and said, "If she's mine now, Then I'm taking her out of here. That is against policy. Jake didn't care. He lifted the girl gently. She was so light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Her breath was soft against his chest. He turned and started walking toward the exit. Behind him, he heard the host speak into a communicator. Security. Stop the human. He's stealing the course. Jake walked faster. The girl in his arms whispered something he couldn't hear. It didn't matter. This was no meal. This was a life. Jake didn't sleep that night. Not because of noise, but because of the girl lying on the cold floor, wrapped in his jacket, breathing slowly like she was afraid even in her dreams. He had carried her out of that horrible place. The alien restaurant guards had chased him halfway down the street. But once he entered the neutral zone, they backed off. No violence was allowed there, but safety was temporary. He stared at the sleeping girl. She was still silent, still shaking. Her arms had red marks where the chains had rubbed her skin. She hadn't said a word, not even when he gave her food or wrapped her in a blanket. Jake sat on the edge of the bed in his small rented room, whispering, "What have they done to you?" He took out his portable scanner. It beeped softly as it scanned her. Species, unknown hybrid, female, age, possibly adolescent. Genetic data, missing. Jake frowned. You're not even registered in any galactic system. That means you don't officially exist. She stirred. Her fingers twitched. Jake stood and gently knelt beside her. Hey, you're safe now. Okay? I won't let anyone hurt you. She opened her eyes. For a moment, she just stared at him, like she wasn't sure if he was real or not. Then her lips moved slowly. Why? She whispered. Jake blinked. It was the first word she had spoken. He smiled softly. Because you're not food, you're a person. Her eyes filled with confusion. Her voice was dry like sand. I was born in a cage. The others were taken. I was next. Jake's heart felt heavy. Not anymore. You're free now. She looked down at the floor. They said we were made for pleasure. Or meals, depends on the buyer. Jake clenched his jaw. That place should be shut down. He stood and paced the room. There must be someone who can help. A protection agency, maybe. An ambassador. Suddenly, the door chimed. Jake froze. Someone was outside. He motioned to the girl to stay quiet and slowly approached the door. His fingers hovered above the unlock panel. Another chime. Then a soft voice spoke through the speaker. Jake Carter, open the door. We only want the girl. Give her back and no harm will come to you. Jake's blood ran cold. They had found him. He whispered, get under the bed, now. The girl didn't move. Please, Jake said, more urgent now. Hide, she crawled. Beneath the bed, just as Jake opened the door slightly, a tall alien in a black suit stood outside. Two more figures were behind him, both wearing red cloaks and masks. Mr. Carter, the tall one said, you took something that doesn't belong to you. She's not property, Jake snapped. She's a creation, the alien replied. Calmly, engineered, customized, you paid nothing. That makes you a thief. Jake narrowed his eyes. Then arrest me. The alien smiled. No need. If you hand her over, you walk free. Jake didn't reply. Behind the door, the girl quietly slipped out from under the bed. She was trembling, but her eyes were sharper now. More aware. She picked up the translator chip Jake had given her earlier. It flickered weakly in her hand. The alien outside tilted his head. Final warning, human. Give her back. Jake looked back at the girl. She looked at him, and for the first time, nodded. Jake turned back to the door. No. He slammed it shut and locked it. Alarms began to blare outside. Jake turned to her. We have to go, now. He grabbed a bag, shoved food, credits, and a stolen access card inside. The girl followed him without question this time. She didn't know where they were going, but she knew one thing. This human wasn't like the others. He saw her not as meat, not as a toy, but as someone worth saving. And for the first time in her life, she wanted to live. Jake didn't run this time. He was done running. Instead, he went back to the very place that had served him a living girl on a plate. But this time, he didn't walk through the front door. The streets were quiet as he crouched in the alley behind the final taste. The restaurant's tall building glowed under the night sky, red lights blinking like warning signs. The girl, now wrapped in clean clothes and with a name Jake gave her, Nova, waited at a safe house with an old friend. Jake stared at the security door behind the kitchen. This was where the monsters worked. And tonight he was going to find out how deep the sickness went. He inserted the stolen access card. Click. The door opened. Jake slipped inside. The kitchen was quiet. No chefs, no noise. Just rows of knives, strange machines, and meat hanging on hooks. Except some of the meat was moving. Jake stepped closer. His heart nearly stopped. They weren't meat at all. They were bodies, young alien girls, barely breathing, hanging by their arms. Some still had collars around their necks. Some had barcode tattoos on their backs. Most were unconscious. One opened her eyes for a second, then closed them again. Jake felt sick. He reached into his bag, pulled out his wrist cam, and started recording. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the shadows. "You shouldn't be here, human." Jake turned. A tall alien chef stood near the freezer door. His apron was stained with something. Dark, not sauce. Jake didn't move. "What is this place? What the hell are you doing to them?" The chef grinned, sharp teeth flashing. "We give the rich what they desire. Taste, thrill, power. This is not your concern." Jake stepped forward, voice rising. "They're alive. They're people." "No," the chef said calmly. "They are grown in labs, trained like pets, registered as property, perfectly legal under Trade Code 714. Jake's eyes narrowed. "And if the law doesn't care, maybe the galaxy will." He lifted his wrist cam. The chef moved fast. Too fast. In seconds, he was on Jake, knocking the cam out of his hand. It hit the ground, still recording as it slid under a counter. "You think exposing us will change anything?" The chef growled. "You're nothing. She's nothing." Jake ducked and grabbed a metal tray, slamming it into the chef's head. The alien staggered. Jake didn't wait. He ran past the kitchen, deeper into the back halls. He needed proof. He needed the truth. He found a behind a locked door labeled Inventory Room. He hacked his way in. Inside were files, photos, videos. Rows of data screens showed live auctions. Alien girls being sold by weight, by color, by voice type. One screen showed Nova, her face, her ID number, her rating. She had been scheduled for presentation the night Jake had ordered the steak. Jake copied everything onto a drive. His hands were shaking, but his heart was focused. Suddenly sirens. Security had found the back door open. Jake grabbed the drive, turned, and ran. He didn't make it far. Two guards appeared at the hallway's end, weapons drawn. "Stop!" Jake dropped a flashbang from his pocket, turned his head, and boom. Bright light blinded the guards. He ran through the steam-filled hallway, through the broken kitchen, grabbed his wrist cam from the floor, and escaped into the night. Outside, Jake's lungs burned. He looked at the data drive in his hand. Everything they needed to destroy that nightmare place was inside. He tapped his comlink. "Nova, I'm coming back. I got it. I got the truth." Her soft voice came through, shaky but clear. "Then maybe others like me can be free too." Jake looked back one last time at the red lights of the final taste. Soon, those lights would go out forever. Nova had never seen the stars before. Now, she sat by a small round window, staring at the night sky like it was magic. Her fingers touched the glass as if she wanted to fly out and disappear into the darkness. Behind her, Jake was speaking fast on a call. "No, I'm not joking. I have the data. The videos, everything. I just need safe passage off this planet. We're being hunted." The voice on the other side paused, then replied, "And the girl?" Jake looked over at Nova. Her eyes were still fixed on the stars. Her face calm, but her hands were shaking. "She's not a girl," Jake said. "She's proof." Click. The line went dead. Jake sighed and sat down beside her. "They don't want to get involved," he muttered. "Too dangerous, too political." Nova didn't answer. Instead, she asked softly, "Are all humans like you?" Jake smiled sadly. "No, most wouldn't have helped. I didn't even plan to. I just couldn't walk away." Nova looked at him for a long moment. Then very quietly she whispered, "I don't know how to be." "Anything else?" Jake blinked. "What do you mean?" Nova lowered her head. "I only know how to obey. I was never taught how to choose, or speak, or say no." Jake reached over and gently held her hand. "You don't have to be anything for anyone anymore," he said. "You're not a meal, not a pet, not a toy. You're you." Nova looked at their hands, then nodded just once, but before the moment could last, a loud sound echoed outside. Thud. Jake jumped up and rushed to the window. A black hovercar was parked just across the street. Its windows were tinted, no lights, no sound. But Jake knew what it was. "They found us." Nova's eyes widened. "What do we do?" Jake grabbed his bag, slung it over his shoulder, and pulled out 2 small disguise bands. "Put this on your wrist," he said, handing her one. "It'll change your face for 6 hours. Just enough to get us to the port." Nova hesitated. "I've never been outside." Jake chuckled. "You've been in hell. The outside will feel like freedom." She slipped on the band. In seconds, her silver blue skin faded into a soft golden tone. Her eyes turned dark. Her face shifted slightly, just enough to make her unrecognizable. Jake pressed the button on his own band. His appearance blurred, turning him into an old bearded trader. "Ready?" he asked. Nova nodded. They left the back door quietly, slipping through narrow alleys, walking past patrol drones and scanning bots. Jake led the way, his eyes watching every corner. As they reached the crowded spaceport, Nova suddenly stopped. She grabbed his arm. "Wait." Jake turned. "What is it?" Nova looked around, eyes wide. I feel something." Jake frowned. "Danger?" "No, not danger," she said slowly. "Something inside me. Something waking up." Jake didn't understand, but there was no time. They passed through the port gates. Jake handed forged papers to the officer. The guard scanned him, then nodded. Next, Nova. The guard looked at her face. Then at the ID. Jake's heart stopped. The guard leaned in, narrowed his eyes, and then waved her through. They stepped into the ship docking area. Jake let out a breath. "We made it." But as they approached the boarding tunnel, a loud alarm rang out behind them. "Security breach. Code red. Subject number 217 has escaped custody." Jake froze. Nova grabbed his hand tightly. All eyes turned toward them. Then Nova's body shimmered. A sudden wave of heat pulsed off her skin. Lights around her flickered. The air hummed like energy was building in her bones. Jake stepped back. "Nova, what's happening to you?" She looked up at him, confused and glowing. "I don't know, but I don't feel small anymore." The floor cracked beneath her feet. Not because Nova was heavy, but because something inside her had changed. Her body glowed softly, veins shining like silver lines. The lights in the spaceport flickered above her, as if afraid. Even the guards paused. "She's not ordinary." One of them shouted, "Take her down." Blasters raised. Jake grabbed Nova's hand. "Run!" They sprinted through the terminal, weaving between shocked travelers and confused droids. Alarms blared louder. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. The floor rumbled as heavy doors began to seal. "They're locking us in." Jake yelled. Nova's grip on his hand tightened. "This way." She didn't know how she knew, she just felt it. She turned sharply down a side tunnel marked "Delivery Entrance, Staff Only." Jake followed without question. The hallway was dark, narrow, and smelled of chemicals, but it wasn't empty. As they turned the corner, they stopped in horror. Rows of cages, not for animals, but for people. Girls, dozens of them, different species, different ages, all chained, all silent. Jake whispered, "Oh God, this isn't a restaurant." Nova stared at the cages, eyes wide. "This is the slaughterhouse." Some of the girls looked up at Nova. One reached out a hand. "Help," Jake turned to Nova. "We have to free them." Nova nodded. She walked to the control panel near the cages. Her glowing hand reached out. As she touched it, the panel sparked and melted. Locks popped open, one by one. The girls stepped out slowly, afraid, unsure. Jake raised his voice. "Follow us, we're getting out of here." Behind them, the metal door slammed shut. Guards were coming. Nova turned to the group. "Go through that tunnel, don't stop. There's a loading ship at the back, I can feel it." "How do you know?" Jake asked. She shook her head. "I don't know how I know, but I do." Jake looked into her glowing eyes and believed her. The group ran. Jake stayed beside Nova. Blaster fire echoed from behind them. The guards had reached the corridor. Jake pulled out his only weapon, a small plasma burst gun. He fired behind him, hitting one of the guards. "Keep going," he shouted, but Nova stopped. She turned toward the guards. Her voice was calm. "You won't hurt anyone again." Then something incredible happened. The air around her shifted. She lifted her hands, and a wave of invisible force slammed the guards into the walls. They dropped their weapons, unconscious. Jake stared. "Nova, what are you?" She looked at him. "I was made in a lab, remember? I think they built something they couldn't control." They ran again, past storage tanks, blood-stained walls, and giant cutting machines. This place wasn't for food, it was for horror. Finally, they reached the exit. A wide-open hatch led to a dock where a small cargo ship was waiting, its engines already humming. The rescued girls were already boarding. Jake turned to Nova. "We made it." But just as they stepped forward, a tall figure blocked the hatch. The chef. His apron was red. His eyes burned with fury. "You think you've won?" he hissed. "She was my best product. My final creation. She's mine." Jake raised his gun. The chef laughed. "That won't work on me, human." But Jake didn't fire. Nova stepped forward. "No," she said, her voice low and steady. "I was never yours." With a single thought boom, a burst of energy exploded from Nova's body, throwing the chef into a steel wall. He didn't get back up. Jake and Nova rushed into the ship. The hatch sealed behind them. The engines roared to life. As the ship lifted off, Nova looked out the window. Down below, the final taste was shrinking into the distance, nothing more than a red dot on a sick planet. Jake sat beside her. "Didn't just escape," he said. "You started a war." Nova looked at him, glowing faintly. "Then I'll finish it." The stars were calling her name. Nova stood near the observation window of the ship, watching them flicker across the endless black sky. But inside her, something else flickered too, something hot, loud, and unfamiliar. It wasn't fear anymore. It was anger. Behind her, Jake sat with the other rescued girls, handing out food packs and blankets. They were safe for now, but Nova, she wasn't sure if she was still the same girl who once lived in a cage. She touched her chest where she felt the strange energy inside her, alive, breathing, awake. "Who am I?" she whispered to her reflection. Suddenly, a cold voice echoed from the ship's com speaker. "Subject 217. Return to your creator." Jake jumped to his feet. What the hell was that? The rescued girls looked around, frightened. Nova turned sharply. That voice. Jake ran to the control panel. We're being hailed by something big. He opened the screen and gasped. A massive ship, shaped like a silver claw, had appeared behind them. Its lights glowed red. Its name flashed across the screen. Lab ship Gen X Prime. Is that where you came from? Jake asked. Nova nodded slowly. That's the lab. That's where they made me. The voice returned, calm and cold. You were not meant to leave. You are property of Gen X. Return, or we will destroy your transport. Jake turned to Nova. What do we do? Nova clenched her fists. They want me? Fine, let them come. Jake frowned. What are you saying? Nova's skin began to glow again, but this time brighter than before. Her eyes turned silver, and the air around her buzzed with power. I remember now, she said. They didn't just create me. They tried to turn me into a weapon. Jake's eyes widened. A weapon? Nova nodded. They trained me to kill, to obey. But they stopped the program when I refused to harm others. Her hands trembled. They said I was broken, useless. She looked at him. But I'm not broken. Jake stepped closer. Nova, what are you planning? She looked at the screen, then back at the others hiding behind crates. The girls were scared, just like she had once been. I'm going to end this, she said. No more cages, no more chains. Suddenly, the large ship outside locked weapons on them. Jake yelled. They're charging plasma cannons. Nova stepped forward. Open the hatch, she said. Jake stared. You'll die. No, she said softly. I was made to survive everything, even space. Before he could stop her, she activated the emergency hatch override. Whoosh. The door opened, and Nova leapt into the black void. Jake shouted her name, but she was already gone. Outside, floating between the stars, Nova closed her eyes. The cold didn't touch her. Her body burned with light. The Gen X ship launched a missile straight at her. Nova lifted her hand. Boom! She caught it mid-air and crushed it into dust. Alarms began to blare on the lab ship. Impossible. She's absorbing energy. Nova opened her eyes, now glowing like fire. She flew forward like a comet, slamming into the enemy ship's hull. Metal twisted. Alarms screamed. Guards ran inside like ants. Nova moved through walls like lightning. She wasn't here to escape. She was here to destroy the place that had created pain for so many. One by one, she shut down the systems labs, cages, weapons. In the center chamber, she found a giant glass tank. Inside it, others like her, floating, sleeping, waiting. They had never even opened their eyes. Nova whispered, You will not be weapons. You will be free. She smashed the tank. The sleeping girls fell gently into her arms, breathing for the first time. She lifted them all and, using her power, carried them outside the ship, back to the transport. Back to Jake. Jake watched from the open hatch, stunned, as Nova returned flying, glowing, carrying 6 more girls in her arms. She landed softly, placed them down, and collapsed into Jake's arms. You did it, he whispered. Nova looked up, weak but smiling. No, she said. We did. The girl who was once served as a stake was now standing before the Galactic Council. The giant room was silent. 12 alien leaders, hundreds of watchers, cameras recording from every angle, and at the center Nova. Her glowing eyes dimmed now, her silver blue skin wrapped in a white robe. She didn't look like a weapon anymore. She looked like hope. Jake stood beside her, wearing clean clothes for the first time in weeks. His wounds had healed, but his heart still raced. One council member, a tall alien with crystal horns, leaned forward. State your name and your reason for entering this chamber. Nova raised her head. Her voice was calm. My name is Nova. I was born in a lab, bred to obey, trained to be food or pleasure or worse, but I escaped. And now I speak for those who still can't. Whispers filled the hall. Jake stepped forward. She saved lives. She destroyed an illegal lab. She exposed a black market that stretched across systems. You all saw the proof I sent. Another council member growled. Why didn't any of our laws detect this? Jake pointed to the screen behind them. Because your laws didn't look beneath the kitchen floor. The room went silent again. Then, Nova did something no one expected. She turned to the other rescued girls, those who were now sitting together in the front row, and said, "You are not meat, you are not pets, you are not broken." She looked at the council again. You called me Subject 217. That's not my name. Jake gave me a real one. And now I ask for one more thing. She paused. A home. Silence. Then the oldest council member, a glowing sphere-shaped being, hovered forward. A home? It repeated. What kind? Nova looked at Jake, then at the girls, then back at the council. A place where no girl is born in a cage. Where no one is trained to be quiet. A place where even the weakest can speak and be heard. Jake stepped up beside her. We'll build it, together. The room was quiet for a moment. Then, a single voice spoke. We approve. One by one. Each council member nodded. The last one simply said, Human compassion once again surprises us. 6 months later. The planet was green. The buildings were simple, round, and full of windows. Laughter echoed in the air, something Nova still wasn't used to, but loved hearing. Jake stood on the porch of their new home, watching a few of the rescued girls plant flowers in the garden. Behind him, Nova walked out with a small child in her arms, one of the orphans they had taken in. Jake smiled. Did she eat? Nova nodded. Twice. She said she wants to grow up to be a council member. Jake chuckled. Good. Someone needs to keep them in line. Nova sat beside him. She looked up at the stars again, but this time, not with fear, not with longing, just peace. Jake looked at her. You're not what I expected when I ordered dinner that night. Nova laughed for the first time. No, she said. But you're the only one who didn't try to eat me. They both laughed, holding hands, and somewhere far away in the stars, the final taste was nothing more than dust and memory. But the girl once called meat? She was now the founder of a sanctuary, and a symbol of something stronger than power, choice.